Australian tax debt is asking ChatGPT, is the Australian federal debt separate to Australian state government debt? Yes. The Australian federal, or Commonwealth, debt is separate from the debts of the individual state and territory governments. Federal debt. This is incurred by the Australian federal government, and includes obligations such as government bonds issued by the Commonwealth to fund national expenditures that exceed revenue. It reflects the financial position of the entire country. State government debt. Each Australian state and territory can incur its own debt, which is managed independently of the federal government. State debts are usually incurred for funding state-level infrastructure projects, public services, and other state-specific expenditures. The federal and state debts are managed separately, and each level of government is responsible for its own financial obligations. What is the Australian federal debt in 2024? In 2024, the Australian federal gross debt is projected to be around 1 trillion Australian dollars, with expectations for it to reach approximately 1.186 trillion Australian dollars by April 2026. Can you give me each Australian state debt in 2024? As of 2024, the combined debt of Australian states is expected to surpass 600 billion Australian dollars, excluding the age groups of 1 to 15 and 65 plus. What percentage of Australians would be considered able-bodied workers? As of 2018, around 84% of Australians aged 15 to 64 without a disability were part of the labour force, which includes those employed and those actively seeking work. This means that the vast majority of people in this age group are considered able-bodied workers. For those with disabilities, the labour force participation was significantly lower at about 53%. To calculate the percentage of able-bodied workers, you would exclude those not participating due to disability or other factors like retirement or voluntary inactivity. Based on these figures, it's estimated that approximately 80% of the population aged 15 to 64 could be considered able-bodied workers if we focus primarily on those without a disability. Could you please give me a number in the millions that reflects this? Approximately 14.2 million Australians, aged 15 to 64, are considered able-bodied workers in 2024. So taking into account the combined total of federal and state debts, what burden would that be for each of those 14.2 million able-bodied Australians? The combined debt burden for each able-bodied Australian aged 15 to 64 is approximately 112,708 Australian dollars, considering both federal and state debts. Is that figure excluding all other taxes? Yes. The figure of approximately 112,708 Australian dollars per able-bodied worker represents only the combined federal and state debt burden. It does not include any other taxes that Australians pay, such as income tax, GST, or other levies. This number is simply a per capita share of the total public debt, not a direct or additional tax liability.